movies released before the year 2000, and you should absolutely watch them.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Jim Cirile and Tanya Klein here from Coverage Inc., the leader in screenplay analysis, development, and editing services since 2002. And we have a very special list we're about to drop on you today. I'm really excited about this one, Tanya.
If you are in film school or have been to film school or are a movie buff, there are certain movies that you are required to watch because they are required viewing in film school.
Yeah.
The Quatsi trilogy, Nanook of the North,
Rashomon.
To the Moon. As a film professional, you should know the history of your art form. However, will those movies actually do you any good as a modern storyteller? No, because they really don't hold up. So here is, and yet there are movies that are often overlooked, especially by the younger generation, because they were released in the year before the year 2000.
I'm always shocked, Tanya, by whenever we have readers who apply to read for us at Coverage Inc. And, one of the things we ask them is, what are some of your influences? And we give them a big, long list of movies and TV shows. And we ask people to rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 to give us, an idea of where they're at, whether they can see through the hype, blah, blah, blah. And so many of the movies that were influential to me growing up, they haven't seen. I think my 5 I chose from movies that are not just things that were, my favorites and very influential on me, but I think that really have something to say for screenwriters, particularly genre screenwriters. I know yours come from a slightly different point of view. And by the way, Tanya, since you mentioned film school before, I just want to say that I am a film school reject. I think you know this story, but I did not get into film school. I was going to SUNY Purchase in New York, and I was an art student, and I tried to transfer in my sophomore year over into the film department, and I met with the dean of the film school, Tom Gunning, and he asked me what some of my favorite movies were, and I did not tell him things like Rashomon or, any of these, film school approved movies. And instead I told him 2 of the 5 movies that I'm about to tell you guys right now. And he gave me this stink eye like you've never seen before. And I didn't get it.
Yeah, well, full disclosure, I went to film school, which is why I'm here to tell you, if you're forced to watch the Quatsi trilogy, weed does help.
All right. Well, with that said, so here's my 5, and these are in no particular order, okay? But these are just 5 movies that I think are very influential, that I think every screenwriter, especially genre screenwriters in my case, should watch. Okay, so starting off with number 5, we have Robocop. Yes, Robocop, Paul Verhoeven's masterpiece, and that's saying something considering his other movies include, Fatal Attraction and the terribly underrated Starship Troopers, all of which are fantastic movies. To my mind, Paul Verhoeven is right up there with Spielberg. In fact, given Spielberg's output of the last 20 years or so, I would say maybe he's even surpassed Spielberg. I don't know. That's just my opinion. But Robocop, a brilliant social satire, a caustic comedy, and a prophetic warning about the future, all of which has mostly come true. Robocop also never forgets to be a cracking action movie. and it's got deliciously conniving bad guys, a likable hero who's trying to rediscover who he is, Kurtwood Smith, just absolutely fantastic as Clarence Boddicker. And by the way, quick story. So about 20 years ago or so, I was in a chocolate shop in Larchmont Village here in LA. And I look over my shoulder and there's Kurtwood Smith. And he's buying chocolate. So I go over to him and I introduce myself. And I'm like, hey, man, I just want to let you know, I love your whole body of work. That 70s show, that's great. I was like, but you were robbed for Robocop. You should have been nominated for an Academy Award. And he gets this look on his face, eyes just lit up. He's like, thank you so much for saying that. He's like, genre movies just don't get the attention. They don't get the love. I don't understand it. I put so much into that role. And so that was just a wonderful little moment. But look, Robocop, it's still great to this day. Some of the stop motion doesn't quite hold up, but overall, the movie is still a great ride. It's still funny, it's exciting, it's gut-wrenching, and that Basil Pallador's score, man, is just, boy, does that get you pumping. So by the end of the movie, you've got like a spring in your step, and like, yeah, Murphy's out there to protect us. Yeah, Robocop, man, that's my number 5.
All right. Well, I ordered mine in order of release date. So I'm going to start with the oldest. And the oldest for me is 12 Angry Men from 1957.
All right.
So, and here are the reasons. I mean, first of all, it's a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. But often, plays are adapted into movies, and most of the time they don't work. And a play and a movie have very different requirements. So often, when they just put the play on film, it's just like, why can't we just watch paint dry,
Yeah, it's stagey.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the few instances where it actually works. I mean, yes, 12 Angry Men has, some really cool cinematography, but there's not much adapting going on. It's 12 angry men. It's 12 jurors in one room.
In a room.
12 jurors in one room for the entirety of the movie. And one would think, wow, how boring. No, it's not. It's frigging riveting. You could not do that with, any play. I mean, you could not have a Samuel Beckett stream of consciousness, monologue fest and put it on film. It wouldn't work. Works great in theater, doesn't work on film. But It works here for some very specific reasons. Every scene, every character has a clear-cut goal and a very strong motive. The stakes are sky high. A man's life is on the line here. What does that tell us about how to approach scene work in our screenplays? Have strong goals. Somebody wants something from somebody else. Somebody else is trying to make a point. Somebody else is trying to get through to another person. The dialogue is character specific.
Yeah.
Their motivations, their backgrounds are very distinct. But yes, so watch 12 Angry Men, 1957.
Yeah, we talk a lot about contained in our videos, about how that's what the industry is looking for, which of course basically means keep something, in as few sets and as small a cast as possible. You can't get much more contained than the entire 90-minute movie taking place in a single room. Rather than try to blow that up or expand it by restaging things out into the hallway or the elevator or the grounds, around the courthouse. The director, who was
Sidney
Lumet leans into that, and the movie gets more and more claustrophobic as it goes on, with the lighting getting darker and the camera pushing in, and people starting to sweat. And he really used that to the movie's advantage. Fantastic movie, absolutely fantastic movie. Great choice. Good pick. All right, let's move on. So here's my number 4. Again, these are in no particular order. And this was a really tough call. I had to get a Monty Python comedy in there. And it was a choice between Life of Brian and Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And I had to go with Life of Brian. And even though Holy Grail is certainly the more popular of the two. But tough choice. But I had to give the edge to Life of Brian because it's a more sophisticated story. It has savage social commentary about religion, cult of personality, occultism in general, bureaucracy, messiah complex, mob mentality. I mean, it even satirizes Star Wars, for crying out loud, and so much more. I mean, the uproar when this movie first came out was just patently absurd. The religious right came and rained hate down on this movie in 1979, I believe it was, for saying that they were denigrating Jesus, and this was a satire about Jesus. Nothing of the sort. The movie takes great pains to make sure we understand Brian is not Jesus. Jesus was born a couple of houses over. No, this is just some guy who gets mistaken for the Messiah in a society where everyone is downtrodden and poor and starving and miserable and just desperately hoping for someone to come along and magically save them. In fact, Jesus is treated with reverence throughout the movie. But anyway, it's a film that just works on so many levels, but probably the most important one to me is it never forgets to be funny. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a sequence in the movie that is just, I don't want, no spoilers. I'm not going to give anything away for those who haven't seen it, but it is one of the funniest sequences in cinema history. And it shouldn't work because, Walt Disney's first rule of screenwriting is if a sequence can be removed from the movie and you never notice it's gone, then it must be removed from the movie. Okay, that means it's bloat. This entire sequence winds up with Brian in the exact same place he was at the end of the sequence that he was at the beginning of the sequence. And that's the whole point of it, because it's so absurd. It's just so brilliant. Hats off to those guys. Absolute genius.
All right. My number two, again, in my case, they are by order of release date, and I've picked another Sidney Lumet movie.
Okay.
I'm mad as hell, and I won't take it anymore.
Of course.
Yes, Network, 1976.
All right.
So,
Great movie. Great movie.
Here are my reasons for picking Network. Well, first of all, Patty Chayefsky, how could you go wrong with that? Movie satire is extremely difficult and rarely succeeds because satire and movie doesn't seem to go together as well as it should.
Yep.
However, they really pulled it off with Network. And what really stands out is it's as contemporary,
Yeah.
it's as important nowadays as it was in 1976 in so
Talk
many
about
ways.
prescient.
Very prescient, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, prophetic in, so many ways. Now, even more so than in 1976 when, you had newspapers and journalism suddenly tried to, be entertaining to get an audience. We're so much further along that path. So it was extremely, extremely prophetic. And the allegory works. I mean, the way Patty Chayefsky used his characters as stand-ins for the old and the new, one type of journalism versus the other type of journalism. And and those two characters representing those, Faye Dunaway and who was the newspaper man, the head of the network?
Oh, geez.
Don't remember.
I don't remember the actor's name.
Those two characters who, there was a love story at the center of it. They formed a relationship, but he in the end, spoiler, but he in the end leaves her because he cannot deal with her brand of entertainment journalism because he is all about just reporting the truth.
Yeah, fantastic movie. Yeah, incredibly prescient and
Yes.
look, not just about in terms of like the infotainment rise of,
Yes.
what, even in the 70s, the news was still, sort of corporatized or beginning to become more corporatized. We know that there was, Operation, was it Mockingbird with the CIA infiltrating?
Oh, that's definitely still ongoing, but yes.
Yeah, exactly. Like back then, it was much less than it is now. Where it's everywhere. But basically, like they were in the 1970s pointing out the corporatization
Yes.
of the news and television. That was what the theme, I thought, of the whole movie was, and
Yes.
it was absurd back then. It was taken to absurdist levels. It's not so absurd anymore. In the same way that Idiocracy seemed like ridiculous 15, 20 years ago when it came out. Yeah, and guess what? Here it is.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Agreed.
All right. My third choice, I got to go with this because it, to my mind, is the most influential sci-fi movie ever made for me.
Okay.
And so I'm not going to pick Star Wars because I know many of you thought when I said that it was going to be Star Wars. No, let's go with Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Woo, woo.
And there's a big reason why I'm choosing Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and it is because
Nick
to my
Meyer.
mind, Nick Meyer. It's because of Nick Meyer. That's exactly right. Nicholas Meyer came into the series. I mean, look, there were some great writers writing Star Trek back in the day of the old TV series, but Nick Meyer came into the series from a completely different point of view. He had never even heard of Star Trek. He literally said, wait, is that the one with the guy with the ears? He knew nothing about it. And so coming in as an outsider, he was able to look at all the stuff that's cool and go, okay, that's cool. And all the stuff that was cheesy and hokey and go, no, and get rid of that. And he crafted something that was positively Shakespearean with all the themes going on in that movie. And that's the reason why, plus, add in some great ILM special effects and some great character interaction. But all of those themes going on throughout the movie, we've got midlife crisis, we've got the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, sacrifice, which of course comes to play out during the course of the story. We've got rebirth. There are so many things, rediscovering one's true self, refusing to go quietly into the dark. All of these incredibly operatic themes that Meyer brought to the fore, with characters literally quoting Shakespeare and Moby Dick. Just a wonderful, wonderful movie. Look, if you're not a fan of the original Star Trek, it's not going to hit the same way. Okay, that's true. Look, I'm old. I love the original show. But if you are a fan of the original Star Trek, it's a solid 10. And even if you're not, it's a solid 8. I say give it a watch. Again, Tanya, we have people sending in their questionnaires to apply to read for us here at Coverage Inc. Quite a few people identify as sci-fi fans, and they haven't seen this movie. I'm like, what?
Yeah, hence that's why we're doing, movies released prior to the year 2000, because I think in particular, people under a certain age have no knowledge.
It is a it is a fantastically written film. Pacing, writing, dialogue, it all comes together. Star Trek has never been as good as it was in 1982 with Star Trek II, even to this day.
Very good. All right, my next one, bit of a change of pace. Romancing the Stone in 1984. So Romancing the Stone is one of those great 80s movies that holds up. Let's face it, a lot of the 80s movies that we remember fondly don't hold up when you watch them again and you're like, wow, what is this shit? So here's why you should watch it as a storyteller for several reasons. Reason number one is the absolute perfect structure. My God, you have this absolute fantastic hook scene that sets up the entire tone and it sets up the theme. And then you go to Kathleen Turner's character, Joan Wilder, in her apartment with her cat, Romeo. She's the writer. Everything is so specific. Her setup is so specific. It's also
and thematic.
And thematic.
The cat's named fucking Romeo.
Romeo, exactly. It's thematic. It's funny. It's such perfection in so many ways. It's not just structure, because if you watch the follow-up to Romancing the Stone, you will see it's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
They're actually following the Romancing the Stone template. The follow-up is still a piece of fucking shit.
Yeah.
But Romancing the Stone, because it has the specificity, it has the humor, it has the heart.
I'm so glad you chose that. That is absolutely a wonderful movie. And yes, it did create the paradigm. It created so many movies, and so few movies yet were able to live up to that.
Exactly. It was just recently, maybe not that recently, that Sandra Bullock movie, which was, supposed to be an updated Romancing the Stone.
Oh, yeah. Right. All right, moving along. This is an interesting choice, okay? So I'm going to choose a mockumentary about the music business. Can you guess what it is?
Well, most people would say, Spinal Tap now.
If you're going to say this is Spinal Tap, you would be wrong. You would be wrong. I'm going with Fear of a Black Hat. Fear of a Black Hat from 1993. Rusty Cundiff, writer, director, and star. And look, hey, all respect to This Is Spinal Tap. Rob Reiner's fantastic film. Look, Rob Reiner, another incredible director. What a tragedy of what happened to him. But has also made some of the greatest movies of our lives. No question about it. And he did, with, his actors, create the mockumentary format. I know they were doing it before. They made This Is Spinal Tap in, shorter versions. I think that was the first time they ever did that as a long form feature film. So credit to them for creating the mockumentary. But what Fear of a Black Hat did was it took Spinal Tap and it restaged it in the world of early 1990s rap. And to my mind, it actually out Spinal Tap. It was funnier to my mind, look, hey, again, Spinal Tap, love it. Great movie. I've seen it like 19 times. I have soundtracks for both This Is Spinal Tap and Fear of a Black Hat. But Fear of a Black Hat, man, just dollar for dollar, punchline for punchline, it's just funnier. If you're at all familiar or a fan of early 90s rap, you will be falling all over yourself. And here's the sad part, Tanya. Nobody knows this movie. So my writing partner at the time in the 1993, Chris Janusa, we were invited to the world premiere on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. And, we both got Fear of a Black Hat baseball caps that we wore that they were giving away. And we saw the movie and we came out of there. Chris and I were both just like, we were laughing for a half hour after we left the theater. And we were both like, this movie is going to kill. It is going to be the biggest movie of the summer. And then it was just gone. Like, what happened? I don't know, man. I have no idea. There was plenty of other like rap comedies coming out at the time. Mostly they all did pretty good, like CB4 with Chris Rock. But yet this movie came out released by ITC. Maybe they just didn't have the advertising budget. I don't know. It just died. Look, if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor. Watch, rent, stream, whatever. Fear of a Black Hat. It's a great movie. And from screenwriting purposes, look, I mean, you're not going to really learn anything for screenwriting purposes, but what you will learn is how to tell a great frickin' joke. If you are a comedy screenwriter, this movie is gold.
Yeah, and all I'm going to say is ice cold, ice tray, ice whatever.
Ice coffee.
Ice coffee, right.
Ice cube tray. Yeah.
All right.
And don't forget the appearance of Jake Spingleton, the composite hot up-and-coming black director in the movie, who was a combination of Spike Lee and John Singleton in the movie, which was just absolutely hilarious. Jake Spingleton. Anyway, got to see it. Fear of a Black Hat. Okay, moving on. Tanya.
All right, so on my list next is Dead Man Walking, 1995. And Dead Man Walking is an extremely, extremely powerful anti-death penalty movie. One of the big reasons why I think every screenwriter and storyteller should watch it, apart from, the great writing, the great acting, is because right now we are in a moment of time where people have writers, creators have a tendency to not tell a story. They have a tendency to preach at people. They have a tendency, to hit a point home by, telling people this is how it is, and
right.
They feel virtuous all the way, and they pat themselves on the back because they're so fucking virtuous, when what they really are is hack writers who forget how to tell a story.
Yeah.
What does Dead Man Walking get right? Everything. So basically, if
Tim
you
Robbins,
want to,
right?
Huh? Tim Robbins, yes.
Tim Robbins wrote this, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Nowadays, if somebody would want to write an anti-death penalty movie, they'd take the easy way out. The easy way would look like, the person on death row is really a virtuous, innocent angel, and then we have the mustache twirling evil people who want this person dead. Yeah. In other words, it's bad storytelling. Dead Man Walking treats everyone, first of all, like a human being. Also, Dead Man Walking takes the hard road. Sean Penn's character, who is on death row, is a terrible person.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. He's a racist, a rapist, and a murderer. He is a terrible, terrible, terrible person. And in the course of the movie, our lead character, played by Susan Sarandon, and Helen Prejean, peels away the layers and the layers and the layers of this terrible person to get to the human being underneath it, reminding everyone that there is a human being in
Yeah.
each and every one of us. At the same time, the movie gives everyone their due. This is a terrible, terrible thing that happened. And the movie shows us the POV of the victim's family, the POV of the
Right.
perpetrator's family. It shows us the wider community. It shows us everyone's pain. It shows us everyone's anger and everyone's anguish.
Very
It
young
is
Jack Black playing the brother.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That is what storytelling is. You know, it should be hard, especially if you want to reach everyone, as opposed to, one certain segment of the population that already agrees with you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, I mean, obviously there's a lot of that in Hollywood right now, and there's a lot of creators who've been elevated into that position who didn't deserve it and don't know how to write characters, with shades of gray, with complexity, with things like that. And, they're just trying to preach. And
Yes, and by the way, achieve the opposite of what they ostensibly want to achieve
well, of
while they're
course.
doing it, and they're telling terrible stories. Okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
killing the business.
And
It's
killing
not
the
just that.
business, yes.
They are literally killing the business, and by the fact that the studios keep hiring these people because, look, I mean, this is a whole other rant we can go into, but let's just end with this is a great and very powerful movie. Did get some Oscars, didn't it?
Yes, Susan Sarandon won.
Yeah, Best Actress.
Tim
right.
Robbins was nominated. I think Sean Penn was nominated too.
Was nominated. He was nominated.
But yeah, so Dead Men Walking, 1995.
Yeah, great movie. Okay, here's my number one. And this one is, again, these are in no particular order. I'm not saying this is my favorite or anything, but I do feel that it is worthy of inclusion. And that movie is Planet of the Apes.
Bravo.
And there's a lot of reasons why it's in here. But look, I just want to state up front. I mean, there's cheesy things about this movie. There's no question about it. Charlton Heston is always going to be Charlton Heston. And, if you can just sort of accept that Charlton Heston is always going to, bring 127% to his performance, like he's acting to the cheap seats, even when the camera's right in his face. But that said, I mean, it's that sort of hyperbolic character that I think drives this movie. And without that, like a more realistic portrayal, I don't know if it would have hit as hard. But, here's just a couple things I want to say about Planet of the Apes. Look, first of all, the script. I mean, it was, the original draft was by none other than Rod Serling. Okay, it was rewritten by Michael Wilson, who, is not a slouch in the screenwriting department either. Lawrence of Arabia. Bridge on the River Kwai. Okay, yeah. So we've got some writing talent on the scenes, and of course, Rod Serling, a fantastic futurist, and great with twist endings. And look, again, I don't want to spoil anything. If you haven't seen Planet of the Apes, go freaking see it already. I mean, you got to know the iconic ending of this movie if you want to be in the game at all. Directed by Franklin Schaffner, who went on to direct some of the most amazing movies of the 1970s. The French Lieutenant's Woman, Papillon, The Boys from Brazil, Patton. I mean, the guy's incredible. Great Jerry Goldsmith score. Look, they made a lot of changes to Serling's original script, and for those who want to, and the reason they did that is for production expenses primarily. Rod Serling thought, oh, good, I get to write a movie. That means I finally don't have to worry about writing on a TV budget. So he just kind of went for it in adapting the Pierre Boulez's 1963 novel. That his version of the movie would have cost like $50 million in 1968. So they cut all that out. But if you want to see what his original vision would have looked like, they actually released a graphic novel called Planet of the Apes: Visionaries, which adapted Serling's original screenplay into a graphic novel. But I think, for sci-fi, for action adventure fans, great pacing, surprises at every turn. And again, it's got something to say about, the world and society, which is still, hauntingly relevant to this day.
Absolutely, I could.
All right, so what's your number one?
Rosewood from 1997. So you probably have not seen Rosewood because I don't think anyone has seen Rosewood. I actually saw it in a movie theater. It was an almost empty movie theater. So Rosewood was John Singleton's sophomore effort. If you know, John Singleton shot to fame with Boys in the Hood, which he made when he was essentially still, in diapers riding a tricycle. So his next one was Rosewood, and there are a few reasons why I think you should watch it, apart from it's a really powerful movie. For a screenwriter, the reasons to watch Rosewood, it's an adaptation of actual events. And often when screenwriters try to adapt actual events, it doesn't go that well because actual events play out a certain way and movies have certain requirements. And, the two might not necessarily dovetail all that nicely. So Singleton actually at the time got a lot of flack for, taking liberties. However, he had to take liberties in order to tell a successful tale. In his case, he created a protagonist. And he created an active protagonist, which is, I'm sorry, if you have a movie, you need an active protagonist.
Yeah, otherwise it's a documentary.
Exactly. Yeah. So apart from that, what Rosewood does really well is it takes a snowball and it turns it into an avalanche. And it's brilliant how you see spiraling violence in front of your eyes. It starts with a lie, it ends in a massacre. And also what is fascinating about Rosewood is how people are swept along in this avalanche.
Right, like Michael Rooker's sheriff character, where clearly he doesn't really want, he goes along with it, but he never really drives it. He's just kind of the one who's trapped in this situation, finally takes a stand at the end. But I felt that, I thought that was a very realistic portrayal.
Exactly. And yeah, so it actually is a riveting movie. It takes a while. I thought the setup was actually going on for a bit too long until we get to the inciting incident. However, the violence, even at the beginning, the danger is always there. It's right underneath the surface. And once, the lie happens, you just wait until a terrible thing is going to happen, and the next terrible thing is going to happen, and then where, the flames are everywhere, so to speak.
Yeah, it really snowballs or fireballs, as the case may be, in a really organic and believable way. And as you're watching it every step of the way, oh, this is not going to go well. They are not going but yet, it never loses you. I thought Singleton did a masterful job with this movie. This was a big budget movie. Clearly, the studio, John Peters was one of the producers. I think the studio gave him a real budget, the budget that he needed to make this movie properly. And he was not rewarded for it at the box office. I don't think America was quite ready for this movie yet with a lot of the themes that were in there. And yet, look at Sinners, which has, it has many similarities to this movie, frankly.
Yeah, except the vampires, but yes.
Apart from the whole vampires. But, the same sort of, white people just sort of being caught up in this casual racism that becomes violence and that sort of social commentary that goes with that, which, America found not palatable in the 1990s.
1997, yeah.
Yeah, but in Sinners is we love it, bring it. And that was probably, I think, one of the main reasons why that film resonated with so many people, because, it spoke to people on that level, on a true level, apart from it being, a cool vampire movie. I think all of these are just wonderful choices, and hopefully there's a couple in there that maybe you guys haven't seen that you might want to check out. So please do, and maybe you'll find something in there that really inspires you or helps elevate your craft. If so, we have done our jobs.
Exactly. Hey, and if you can think of any more movies, and you probably can, put them in the comments or email us at info@coverageinc.com.
Wonderful. Thanks for watching, folks. Please like and subscribe, and hit that little notification bell, because that tells the algorithm that we exist. And we will see all of you guys in the next video.
Now, your new album is NWH Fear of a Black Hat.
Right. But see, actually, that shit was supposed to be NWH Fear of a Black Hat, then subtitle Don't Shoot Till You See the Whites.
Of their eyes?
Whose eyes?